Well, UCF has been going crazy in the portal the last week. We're going to go through all the latest signings and give you my thoughts on all of them. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Charge On. As always, I'm your host, Sean Green. Before we get started, a quick word from our sponsor, BetOnline. BetOnline continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides you with all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. With a large selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA and college basketball, NHL to UFC. Head to BetOnline today and don't forget to use promo code BELIEVE for your welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, the game starts here. Hope everybody had a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Hope everybody's enjoying the time with their families and enjoying the time off of work if you have off the rest of this week. Obviously, today's Friday. I'm under the weather, if you can't already tell. I'm pretty sure you could tell the minute I turn the mic on. I don't know what it is. Every single week of Christmas for the last couple of years, I get sick. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It's just the bad luck. I get bad luck. So hopefully I can make it through this 20 or so minute episode without any hiccups. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. Let's get right into it. Scott Frost and staff are putting in work. And we knew that it was going to have to happen, right? UCF lost. They were one of the teams in the country that lost the most in terms of transfer portal. Once Gus Malzahn resigned, a lot of players entered the portal. And you saw players for UCF go a bunch of different places. You still have a lot of players that left UCF looking for homes. You saw guys that originally entered the portal get out of the portal and come back to UCF. You saw guys like Randy Pittman sign with Florida State, which kind of shocked a lot of us. But in terms of having to replace, it was a tall task for UCF. It is a tall task for UCF. We learned last year that the transfer portal is not all it's cracked up to be. You don't want to have to go in the portal every single year and replace your roster, because doing that, you are basically hoping and praying that the player that you're going and getting is going to have the same production and is the player that maybe he put on tape the year before at whatever program, whether it be FBS, FCS, whatever, right? JUCO. You're hoping that the player is the player that you're seeing in terms of stats and production. So for UCF, they were going in and having to really find guys that now fit the Scott Frost system. And they've signed 17 guys. We're going to go through all of them. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I have base knowledge just like you guys. I know a lot of these guys. I don't know a couple of them, but I know kind of what they've done. So we're going to go through them. This is base knowledge. And again, I want to emphasize this. We kind of have done this, right? This is now, we're heading into our fourth UCF football season as a podcast. So we've done these type of podcasts before where we go and we look at this transfer and we say, this guy should really help the Knights. This guy should really come and make an impact. We have no idea. We have no earthly idea what any of these players are going to do. So I want to emphasize this. They're going in, they've signed a lot of guys. Some of these guys you might never see on the football field. Some of these guys might make a huge impact for UCF next season. We're not going to know until August of 2025. So take everything with a grain of salt. I think what's more impressive is it seems like they're getting good quality guys from a lot of P4 programs that might just need an opportunity or might be underlooked. And I think that's where Scott Frost and staff, we knew that that's where kind of the direction they would go, is to try and get those underlooked guys. But I have been surprised. They've been going after a lot of bigger time guys that were big time in high school, maybe haven't done as much or haven't gotten opportunities in college as they would have liked. And now they're going to bring them back home. And some of those guys, it definitely refers to some of these guys, and we'll talk about them all. But let's talk about one that I do not like. Cam Fancher, quarterback out of Florida Atlantic. He's got 1 year remaining. He played 9 games in 2024. He had 1,528 passing yards, 6 touchdowns. Now, he did rush for 365 yards. Listen, I'm going to be honest. I've talked to a couple people on him, and he's started 26 games in his career. He was at Marshall originally. Now he was at FAU. People got nervous, and this happened a little while back, so I don't want to spend too much time, but Cam Fancher is not going to be UCF starting quarterback. He is a depth piece. If he is your starting quarterback, UCF is going to have a lot of problems because Cam Fancher is notorious. He's a playmaker. Don't get me wrong. I mean, he's dangerous with his legs. He can create plays, but just go look at his stats. Stats usually tell a story, sometimes not the whole story, and then when you watch the tape, it proves it. He's a turnover machine. He's been a turnovers machine his entire career. I think Scott Frost and Mackenzie Milton can help him out and make him a better overall player, but this is a depth piece. I would rather have Jakari. I'd rather have Dylan. And I'm still expecting UCF to add another quarterback. There's a couple names out there that UCF is in on. I don't know if we'll find that out for another week or so as these guys take visits and all that stuff, but Cam Fancher is a guy that is filling out the quarterback room, and that's something that we need to take into account. Let's talk about a bunch of offensive linemen because we're going to group these together. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 signed offensive lineman guys. Let's start with the first one. You got LaParca Langston, played at JUCO, named All-MACCC in 2024, played in 10 games. Big offensive lineman. Again, most of these guys get 2 years of eligibility. We'll see what happens. Gerard Menmillar, he's from Washington. So he's more of a guard. He was their starting left guard in 2024. So he started for the University of Washington all year. Now, granted, I want to be very clear. That doesn't mean that they're necessarily great. We've seen P4 guys come here, blanking on the guy's name. I didn't like him. He was really bad. Stanford came over from Stanford. I don't know why I'm blanking. I'm under the weather. Somebody put it down in the comments. It'll probably come to me at some point. But just because a guy starts for a team doesn't mean that they're good. But Gerard, getting a guy that is a senior, he's got 1 year left of eligibility, started for a P4 program the entire year. You have to bring some of those guys in. And UCF brought him in. I think it's crucial. And I think he has a really good chance to start. UCF obviously lost a lot on the offensive line. That's why you like to see that they've added a bunch. Obviously, with, Clark coming in as the offensive line coach, I think that was one of the best hires, if not the best hires of the cycle. So to get a starting caliber left guard, right guard, wherever you want to put him, is huge. And a guy that started in the Power 4. Preston Cushman, junior out of Ole Miss. He played in 12 games in 2024 for the Rebels. He's more of a backup. Was a backup special teams type of guy for Ole Miss. But again, you've seen that in the past work out where you bring in a backup. Amari Kite was a backup at Bama, right? So I'm not saying Preston Cushman's going to get playing time, but I think, again, you bring in these guys from the P4, see what they can do. Didn't get a lot of minutes with Ole Miss, but played on special teams. So we'll see what happens. I am impressed with kind of everything he's done to be able to play special teams, maybe not get as many opportunities on the offensive line to start, but kind of is in mop-up duty and plays when somebody's injured. We'll see what he can do. Jakaya Leftwich, offensive lineman from North Carolina. He played in 10 games. Again, I think he played in 9, but started only 1. So that is something to monitor. He's a big offensive lineman. I would assume he's tackle. Listen, again, you're going to see a trend here with Scott Frost and the staff going after a lot of P4 guys, right? We have, obviously, Cam Fancher from FAU, so he's G5. But if you go down the list, out of the offensive linemen, 3 of the 5 that they brought in are from P4. And then the 2 that are not are high-end, high-value JUCO or D2 guys that you're taking a waiver on, and you're seeing what can happen. So Ja'Kai Leftwich leaves North Carolina to come potentially get a much bigger opportunity with UCF. And then Justin Royce, like I said, D2, Virginia Union, Division II, played in 9 games, competed in the shot put on the track team so he can run. I think he's kind of the one that I have a star next to as a potential to really take a leap. He was one of the better offensive linemen in the portal when it comes to, I think that was LaParca Langston. But both these guys, high end, high motor, and can make an impact. I don't know. That's when I say we have no idea, especially on the offensive line. We have zero clue what any of this could mean for the offensive line. But I am more confident in the offensive line with who's coaching them, with the guys they're bringing in, the guys that are already on the roster that have been developing. So I am excited to see what the offensive line could do. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball a little bit and talk about a guy that we all know, Day Farmer, sophomore from West Virginia, has 3 years of eligibility left. He played in 11 games for the Mountaineers, caught 6 passes for 54 yards, and had 2 rushes for 6 yards and a kick return of 21 yards. Day Farmer, we all know. He was committed to UCF. I think this is what's great about the portal in terms of UCF moving forward. And you'll start seeing it like today, Sincere Edwards entered the portal. I'm assuming UCF will go back after him. Day Farmer, 4-star receiver in last year's freshman class, was committed all the way until signing day for UCF, flipped on signing day to West Virginia, and now comes to the Knights. I think timing is everything. You can get mad at some of these players for doing what they do and decommitting and entering the portal and what have you. Ultimately, Day Farmer made the best decision for him because he wasn't going to play last year. Now you kind of see Gus Malzahn and the way he used receivers wasn't amazing, and the quarterbacks on the roster didn't really benefit the receivers. So he made the best decision for him. He played in 11 of the games, which you can't say that about some of the receivers on the roster that were coming in as freshmen that didn't really get opportunities. So I think for him to come back, you get a high upside guy that hasn't really proven anything, went to another program, came back, and now you get to see what he's made of. I mean, I think this is a really, really good depth piece that has high upside and high potential. And that's what we saw out of it. You've got a lot of former 4-star receivers in that room. I think UCF, and this is what I like, you don't see UCF going out after a bunch of receivers. You see them offering a couple. But I think UCF is very confident in what they have on the roster in terms of now. And granted, you're missing out on a lot of guys, right? You're missing Kobe Hudson next year. You're missing a lot of starting caliber players. Jacoby Jones not coming back, right? The whole craziness with the JUCO or extra year of eligibility, what have you, doesn't apply. So you're really losing your top 2 receivers, top 3 because Xavier Townsend. So for UCF, I think they have a lot of young guys on the roster that are looking to make an impact. And I think for Scott Frost, they're wanting to prove themselves. I mean, again, we heard about Burdell Richardson. I think he's an early candidate to get starting minutes. Day Farmer, he can come in and make an impact. So there's some guys on the roster that are young, that are hungry, that are going to get an opportunity because Scott Frost is going to use them and use their skill set to fit his offense. And I think UCF does have a lot of guys on the roster that do fit the Scott Frost offense very well. All right, let's talk about, again, close out the offensive side of the ball with Dylan Wade. This is a sneaky one of my favorite, it might be my favorite, signings from the transfer portal. Has 2 years remaining. Orlando kid, was at Maryland, played in all of the games last season for Maryland, caught 29 passes for 374 yards and 2 touchdowns. You lose Randy Pittman. We talked about it, right? Stinks. You lost him. He was a hell of a blocking tight end. Didn't really get going in the offense as much as you would have liked. UCF fans were clamoring to get him the ball. Gus never did it. Dylan Wade is a perfect, he's not Randy Pittman, but he is a highly productive tight end that will be able to slide in from day one and he is a Scott Frost tight end. Receiving tight end that can also block, not as good of a blocker as Randy Pittman, but a baller. He is a baller, and I think he's going to be really, really effective in this offense. I can't stress enough. I think you've got guys like Kylan Fox was technically a receiver. They moved him to receiver. I would assume that they kind of move him back to tight end and keep him in that tight end role, but who knows? Maybe he's still a receiver next year. Who knows? But I think a duo between those two, I think getting Kylan Fox some extra minutes and playing Dylan Wade, a guy that deserves the minutes and is a perfect substitute for Randy Pittman, is crucial. The fact they got him big time, and again, another Orlando kid, we talked about it. And that's been UCF's MO. Players leaving, going to other schools, and then realizing grass isn't always greener and coming home. That's the case for a good chunk of these guys, and for Dylan Wade to come back and play in Orlando is crucial. So, big time get for UCF there. All right, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Defensive side has been highly productive in terms of who they've added. And like we talked about, we'll talk defensive tackle. We talked about R.J. Jackson from Tulsa, productive at Tulsa, had 35 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 3 sacks. Like, you have a productive guy, helps with depth. Again, you're losing your 2 starting defensive tackles. So it's really going to be a toss-up who starts. John Walker's going to be one of them. We don't know who the second one's going to be, but bringing in a bunch of depth pieces to be in that 4-man rotation really was crucial. Horace Locken didn't play last year. He was injured. Has 2 years of eligibility, played at Georgia Tech. 6'6", 340. A 6'6", 340-pound defensive tackle. If you remember him, it's because he played at Georgia Tech in that bowl game, made a couple big plays in the Gasparilla Bowl against UCF. So now he gets to play at UCF, and I think he can be a huge piece in UCF's big wheel on the defensive line. I think he needs a little bit of work getting back. He was injured. Obviously, you want to see what he can do in spring. I don't know if he'll be healthy for spring. That's the question we're going to have to ask. But I think he can be a sneaky good signing if he can get healthy and stay healthy. I think it's crucial. We'll talk about DBs last because there was just a commit literally an hour before I started recording. So we'll talk about the DBs last. But Phil, I'm going to butcher this last name. It's very Italian. I don't know if it's Italian. Phil Picciotti. Somebody tell me how to say his last name. I've been trying to figure it out for a while. But this is one of, on the defense, my favorite signings. When I find out his last name and I know how to say it, it's going to be dangerous. Because I feel like this kid, he's been through the trials and tribulations these last 2 years. Didn't play both these years, both the last couple of years due to injury. He's a redshirt freshman. I think it's knee issues he's had. But went to Oklahoma, was actually recruited by Ted Roof, which is kind of hilarious. But this kid has a lot of upside. And whenever you have a kid that's dealt with so many injuries, you want to see him succeed. I think he's finally going to potentially get an opportunity in this linebacker room to really make some noise if he can stay healthy. And you really want it. Go put on his high school tape. Dude's a baller. He is a baller. And I think to get a young player like that to come here, it was like he went to North Carolina, could have played for Bill Belichick, and he said, no, I want the fun. I want the fun team. I want the fun defense with Scott Frost. So I think we'll see. Again, another high upside guy. Like, had injuries. You have to see how he's going to perform. Can he get healthy? Can he stay healthy? And if he can stay healthy, how dangerous is a kid with that much upside going to be? Because you don't know. He's got 4 years of eligibility remaining. That's a high potential type of guy. Another linebacker that they added is Keelah Lawson, redshirt senior out of Virginia Tech. He's got 1 year of eligibility remaining. He played in all 11 games, only started 1. So again, he's kind of that backup linebacker, comes in. He had 40 tackles, 20 solo tackles, and he was named an All-ACC honorable mention in 2023. Again, last year, I think he was more of a starter in 2023. Last year, played more of a backup role, which he still played a good chunk, but He's a really solid depth piece at linebacker. You can throw him and start, and it will not be that big of a drop-off. He's going to perform. He's done really well in the ACC. Again, you're adding a P4 type of linebacker to the bunch, and you lost some. X-Ray Alexander was a huge loss. Like, don't get it twisted. Losing your potential starting linebacker, young potential starting linebacker that had 2 years left, is a big loss. But again, like I said before on the last podcast, I think there are guys that can step up that I have a lot of confidence in. Andrew Harris, I'm going to keep mentioning him. I think he's going to be crucial in that linebacker room. I think he's that good. He just needs an opportunity. So those are the linebackers. I like what they did there. And let's go to the DBs. Obviously, we talked about Brandon Jacob. Again, another high upside redshirt freshman, former 4-star. We talked about him. Isaiah Reed from Brown. He's a grad student. Only played in 4 games last year because he was injured. Again, a lot of these guys, like the DB specifically, haven't been like so impressed with. I think a lot of these are, hey, we'll wait and see. Little on the smaller side for a lot of these guys. But again, I think there's some guys I'm interested in that we already have on the roster. These are really good depth pieces. And hey, who knows? Potential starters. But played at Brown. We'll see what happens. DJ Bell from Memphis has 2 years of eligibility remaining. Only played in 5 games. Again, another guy, I'm going to say it until the sun don't shine. Potential depth piece. Don't know if he's going to start. But once they put the ball down, Scott Frost, it's going to be whoever's the best player is going to play. So they're bringing in guys that have played some football, maybe not starters, but have played some good football, and we'll go from there. Philip Dunham from FAU. He is a way better Florida Atlantic commit than Cam Fancher. Played in 11 games last year, had 56 tackles, 3 interceptions, 7 pass defended, and 1 forced fumble. I think when it's all said and done, he might be starting. He's a really good ball hawk. He will find the football. And he's really good. Obviously, 7 pass defenses. It is crucial. So I think when you talk about a guy from Florida Atlantic, you also have to remember UCF now has 2 FAU guys on staff in the player, not player development, but I can't think. Obviously, from FAU, they probably had a big hand in bringing those guys over. They know those guys. They know their character. Philip Dunham can be a major piece to this new look UCF defense potentially. Jaden Gold. It was talked about a lot. Jaden was the first commit, one of the highest rated commit or first commit in Scott Frost's Nebraska time. So committed to Scott Frost at Nebraska, then transferred. Scott Frost gets fired. He goes to Syracuse, and he played in 6 games last year for the Cuse and had 10 total tackles. So not a guy that played a lot for Syracuse, but high potential, former 4-star, knows Scott Frost, plays well in the Frost system, especially on defense, but we'll see how the defense shakes up and how this new look defense is going to look. I think, again, nice signing, could potentially be a nice depth piece, but maybe Scott Frost is looking at him to come in and be a starter. Didn't start at Syracuse, didn't play a whole lot, but looked decent when he was in the game, and I think Syracuse fans were expecting him to take a much bigger role this year, a potential starting role this year. So to lose him and get him is crucial. And then just, again, an hour before the final one we'll talk to, Jaden Bellamy. Jaden Bellamy from Syracuse, another Syracuse DB, is committing to UCF. He was originally from Notre Dame, but started at Syracuse and posted 34 tackles and 2 interceptions this year. They said he was a starter. I don't know if he was a starter. I might be wrong on that. I think he started in the back half, potentially. If any Syracuse fans watch this, let me know. I thought he was a backup and then started playing it was a starter towards the end of the year. Stephen Leonard posted a really good PFF stat on Jaden Bellamy. He logged 861 snaps in 2 seasons for Syracuse, with overall grades of 72.4 in 2023 and 75.7 in 2024. Last year was his best season by far. He allowed just 1 touchdown reception this season with 2 interceptions. So in terms of, again, quality P4, to get Jaden Bellamy is big time. Syracuse, especially Jaden Bellamy and Jaden Gold, a lot of these guys assumed that these guys would be big-time players for them next season. A lot of development this year. Scott Frost gets them to come over, and I think in terms of quality on the DB room, it isn't maybe as strong as some of the other positions that they've gotten, but I think in terms of potential depth, I think it's a lot more strong than maybe in years past. And we'll see. Again, this is all we'll see first reactions, but I think to add some of these guys is going to be crucial moving forward for the depth and, hey, put the ball down, see who's the best. I don't think I missed anybody. I think that's it right now. If I'm missing anybody, let me know. We went a little bit longer than I thought. And like I said, I'm getting acquainted with them just as much as everybody else. I still have a lot of studying to do. This is going to be a whole new roster. It's going to be a whole new roster of learning. But I think for the most part, the first bit of knowledge that we have on these guys, and after watching tape on a lot of them, it's really good pieces that needed to be added. You lost your entire offensive line. You lost your 2 starters on the defensive tackle position, which technically not because John Walker's going to be a starter, but you lost your 2 starters from this previous season. You lost a lot of depth in the quarterback room. You lost your starting tight end. You lost your starting 2 DBs. You lost a couple linebackers. And UCF has done what they needed to do and added guys to replace them. If it works out, we'll find out. We've got a lot of time to figure that one out. But I think in terms of what they've done at previous spots, how efficient they are, high ceiling, low floor, I think Scott Frost and staff did a really good job. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for today's episode of Charge On. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. Do all that you do. We greatly, greatly appreciate it. Again, sorry for the bad sounding. I sound very bad. I'm feeling okay. Just have a little cold going through. But appreciate you guys hanging in there with me as always. We'll be back next week. Listen, the minute UCF signs a quarterback that could potentially start, we'll have an emergency pod. But until then, we're going to keep doing the one a week unless something crazy happens. But we appreciate you sticking in there. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed your holidays or are still enjoying your holiday. Please, and yeah, that's about it. New Year's. Hope you have a happy New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. Yeah, that's all I got. That's all I got, folks. That's all I got. I'm going to go take a nap. Thank you all for tuning into Charge. And this has been Charge On, presented by Bet Online. We will see you next week.